Chapter 476, Meeting the Parents. Old Lee, don't be anxious. I don't know what happened either. He didn't tell me. Old Master Tan glared at his son. Dad, I've invited her. She'll be here soon, Tan Shilin said. Old Master Tan looked at the Lee family in embarrassment. Why didn't you tell me? Old Lee, I'm really sorry. He didn't tell me. You made a wasted trip today. Why are you guys wasting my time like this? I have a meeting to attend. I'll be going. Li Shu didn't like Tan Shilin either. He looked sloppy, and she didn't want to marry a man that looks like a spoiled brat. Old Tan, you disappointed me. You're making us both embarrassed, as though you were here to steal the groom. Li Mu flicked his sleeves angrily and laughed. Rascal, why didn't you tell me you had a girlfriend? You made me so embarrassed today. Which family's daughter is she? Let me tell you, the Tan family needs a well-matched family for a daughter-in-law. She can't be a woman from a small family. Old Master Tan spoke solemnly. Don't worry, you'll be satisfied. Tan Shilin was full of confidence. Where did you find that family? I heard that your relationship with that beautiful woman from the company is ambiguous. You can't be with a woman like her. Well, Master Tan reminded him again. They had lost Hu Hu and couldn't take another vixen who entered the house. You'll know when she comes. Tan Shilin kept him in suspense. Just then, Yaxin rang the doorbell at the Tan family villa. The nanny came to report. There's a lady outside. She said that Mr. Tan invited her over as a guest. Tan Shilin hurriedly said, Hurry and invite her in. When Master Tan was looking forward to seeing his daughter-in-law, Yaxin walked in sensibly with a gift. Grandpa, hello, I am Lan Yaxin. This is the best ginseng I brought for you. It is for your health. Yaxin looked gentle, innocent, and clean. When Master Tan liked her very much, he hurriedly accepted the gift and eyed Yaxin, nodding from time to time. All right, sit down. Well, Master Tan hurriedly got the nanny to serve tea and pastries. Yaxin, when did you meet my son? Why haven't I heard this rascal mention you? Tan Shilin and I have been in a relationship for a long time, but don't worry. We only started being together after his divorce. Back then we felt like things were a little unstable, so we didn't say anything. Yaxin became even more well-behaved. I see. How old are you? What does your family do? Master Tan asked. He thought that she looked pretty. Well, at least her first impression was good. Dad, are you checking her household background? Tan Shilin asked. Nonsense. Can't I understand my daughter-in-law's family situation? Don't interrupt me. Miss Lan, don't mind me. I'm just asking casually. It's all right if you don't want to answer. Well, Master Tan smiled kindly. It's all right. I can answer that. My sister is Mojin Rong's wife. Although we aren't biological sisters, we are relatives. Yaxin didn't say anything else. This was enough. I see. Master Tan nodded, looking especially happy now. It was a dream of many to become relatives with the Mo family. How is it? Are you satisfied? Tan Shilin walked over, pulled his girlfriend into his embrace, and smiled. Satisfied. How can I not be satisfied when such a good thing happens? In the future, feel free to come over often. You and Shilin have been in a relationship for so long. Why don't I meet your parents to discuss your marriage? Old Master Tan said anxiously. Dad, I don't want to get married yet, Tan Shilin muttered softly. You bastard, do you think she can afford to wait? I'm already so old, so why aren't you stringing a grandson for me? Are you going to donate such a big family business to someone in the future? Old Master Tan cursed angrily and then smiled kindly. Miss Lan, don't mind me. I was only lecturing my son just now. What do you think about this? You've been in a relationship for so long. Why don't we meet your parents so that I can discuss the date of your wedding with your parents? Yaxin hesitated. She couldn't explain that her parents were both in jail, so she could only smile. My parents are abroad and are busy with business, so they can't come back. I can handle the marriage myself. Old Master Tan shook his head and waved his hand, indicating his disagreement. How can a parent not step in when it comes to marriage? If it doesn't work out, your sister can do it. Why don't I go to the Mo Corporation to find your sister and your brother-in-law? Old Master Tan asked. He was worried that he wouldn't have a way to get close to the Mo family. Wasn't this such a good opportunity? Yaxin hurriedly denied him. There is no need. My parents aren't here now and they have their own things to do. They don't care about me. And my sister is just my cousin. Our relationship isn't that deep, so there's no need to trouble her. I can get married any time. Yaxin had taken a big risk this time. Once old Master Tan went to find Ayn Rand, everything about her would be exposed, so she had to calm him down. She glanced at Tan Shilin and gestured to him to talk. Tan Shilin wanted to laugh. Yaxin really didn't know how to lie. Dad, don't say so much. I've been married once. How could I not know about this? It's just that Yaxin's parents are living separately and have their own careers to deal with. Her relationship with her parents aren't good, and her sister is indifferent. Don't make her call her parents. Old Master Tan pitied the girl in front of him and nodded. It's alright if you don't want to do this, but we have to at least call them. The Tan family is a reasonable family. We can skip the meeting with parents, but we have to inform them. Yaxin nodded, pretending to be obedient. The old master was overjoyed that he had such a good daughter-in-law. Meanwhile, Mojana sent Ayn Rand home. Ayn Rand, you haven't answered the question I asked you last time. Is that girl you? When Jinrong heard her story, he was already suspicious, but seeing her hatred for Yaxin today, it must be her story. Ayn Rand was playing with her phone. She paused and looked up at him, her expression confused. She thought for a moment and spoke. Do you believe in the afterlife? Jinrong stared into her eyes with a slightly stunned expression. I'm already so old, so why are you stringing... Chapter 477, Car Accident. I'll believe you if you say so. He was an atheist, but he was confused when he saw Ayn Rand's expression. Was she someone who died once? Ayn Rand still didn't speak. She lowered her head and played with her phone, but she was already distracted. She didn't know how to tell Jinrong about this. He'd be frightened, right? Ayn Rand was about to say something when a checked car suddenly rushed over, crashing straight into Jinrong's car. Jinrong quickly turned the steering wheel. He accidentally drove the car into a street lamp, and Jinrong's head hit the steering wheel, bleeding profusely. Ayn Rand panicked when she saw this. She was protected in Jinrong's arms and wasn't injured at all. But he was lying on the steering wheel. Blood was dripping from the steering wheel and staining the carpet in the car. In her panic, Ayn Rand suddenly smelled something burning, and the air was filled with the smell of gasoline. She had a bad feeling. She struggled to open the car door and climbed out first. The road was relatively remote, and in order to avoid traffic, they chose a back road. There weren't many people on this road. After Ayn Rand crawled out, she opened another door and pulled Jinrong out with all of her might, but his body was stuck to the seat. Come out! Jinrong, please! Ayn Rand hugged Jinrong's upper body tightly, but Jinrong was stuck and couldn't get out. She turned her head and saw smoke coming from the front of the car. She realized the engine must have started burning and leaked oil. It was dangerous here, and the car would explode soon. Jinrong, wake up. It's not safe here. Jinrong, wake up. The car is about to explode. Ayn Rand was very thin and couldn't move him at all. She pressed the secret signal for help, but even if Fatty came, it would take at least 10 minutes. This place couldn't last 10 minutes at all. The smell of gasoline in the air grew stronger, and Jinrong's head was still bleeding. She didn't dare to test if he was still alive. Ayn Rand could only take the risk and go on again. She struggled to move his legs out from under the chair. Suddenly, Ayn Rand heard the sound of a whirring electricity coming in from the front of the car. Crap! Jinrong, come out quickly! I don't want to die yet! She cried as she moved his legs in the car. Jinrong, who was still leaning against the car door, opened his swollen eyes and spoke weakly. Ayn Rand, hurry and leave. Don't worry about me. No, we have to stick together. I won't abandon you, and you can forget about abandoning me. Enran used all her strength and pulled his legs out. Ah! Jinrong was in so much pain as he fell out of the car. Enran watched as the smoke from the front of the car grew stronger and the smell of gasoline increased. She hurriedly helped Jinrong up, and the two of them limped far away. In less than 2 minutes, the car exploded behind them. The loud explosion shattered the glass of the car windows and smoke billowed from the burning car. Enran and Jinrong fell to the ground from the explosion and fainted. When Fatty arrived, he found the two of them and sent them to the hospital. At home, old Mrs. Mo was shocked when her grandson and granddaughter-in-law had gotten into a car accident and fainted. Her son had died in a car accident, and now her grandson and her granddaughter-in-law were the same. Couldn't she have a descendant? When old Mrs. Mo came to her senses, she hurried into the hospital. "How is it?" she grabbed Mo-san and asked. Mo-san shook his head and cried. Old Mrs. Mo became even more anxious when she saw this, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. "Is Jinrong?" Before she could finish speaking, 2 corpses were pushed out. Old Mrs. Mo was agitated and spat out a bowl full of blood. "Old Mrs. Mo, are you all right?" Mo-san asked. "He isn't my grandson. He definitely can't be my grandson. I'm already so old, and you want me to send him off?" Old Mrs. Mo cried uncontrollably as Nanny Wu helped her. She didn't dare to lift the white cloth to see if it was her grandson. She didn't even have the strength to stand up now. Old Mrs. Mo. Mo-san couldn't bear to see old Mrs. Mo sad, so he told her the truth. "What did you say?" Old Mrs. Mo's eyes widened as she looked at Mo-san in disbelief. "Old Mrs. Mo, what's wrong?" Nanny was very curious about what Mo-san had told Mrs. Mo to have such an expression. Old Mrs. Mo looked at the 2 corpses and didn't dare to lift the white cloth, allowing the medical staff to push them away. Shang Li rushed over after receiving the news. When he saw the 2 corpses, the corner of his mouth lifted, but tears still flowed down. He ran to old Mrs. Mo and cried, "Mom, what happened? Jinrong was fine just now. How could he be gone like that?" Shang Li hugged old Mrs. Mo and cried uncontrollably. Old Mrs. Mo didn't say anything and could only hug him back. His father died in a car accident, and so did he. Is this fate? Old Mrs. Mo spoke in a deep voice. "Old Mrs. Mo, you vomited a mouthful of blood just now. You have to take care of your health." Nanny Wu was upset. She wiped her tears and continued to spill old Mrs. Mo. She had watched Jinrong grow up. They had just met 2 days ago, and now he was gone. No one could accept such a thing. "My grandson is gone. What's the use of my body?" Old Mrs. Mo looked upset. "Mom, you have to take care of your health. Jinrong is watching you from the sky," Shang Li cried. "God, you're going to end the Mo family." Old Mrs. Mo fainted as she spoke. Shang Li hurriedly carried old Mrs. Mo to the emergency room to get an IV drip. On the other hand, Yan had just returned home and hadn't seen his sister yet. When he heard the news of her death, the family was thunderstruck. "That's impossible. My daughter can't be dead. She didn't die the last time she fell off a cliff. How could a small accident take her away?" But Yuru couldn't sit still. Although she said that it was impossible, she was still frightened. "I'm going to go to the hospital to see my daughter. I can't believe that she's really dead." Tingyang was a little agitated. He had heard the news from the internet and that the corpses had been identified and that the memorial service was next. He hadn't even identified his daughter's corpse, so how could it be? He walked towards the hospital with trembling legs. Yanran kept saying that it was impossible. His sister was reincarnated immortal. How could she be gone? When they arrived at the hospital, the family went to the mortuary to retrieve the corpses. Mo Jinrong and Anran laid on alone in the bed, covered in a white cloth. Chapter 478. Is she really dead? Tingyang stretched out his trembling hands to remove the white cloth. The moment the forehead was exposed, he didn't dare to look. He had recognized her as his daughter. Ting Young couldn't believe that his daughter was lying in a cold mortuary. Liu fainted from shock. My daughter! Old Mrs. Mo and Sheng Li stood at the door. Ting Young walked out with a tired expression and asked coldly, "Who harmed my daughter?" "The police are still investigating." Mo San looked at the Lan family and spoke softly. "I'm going to find that bastard and avenge my daughter." Ting Young didn't shed a single tear, but his face was full of sadness. "Dad, look, Mom fainted." Yan Ren held his mother and cried. "Yan Ren, take good care of your mom. I'm going to the police station." Ting Young walked out coldly. Soon the news of Jin Rong's death was spread throughout the business world. The happiest was still their enemy. Qin Shu's mentality had completely collapsed. "The heavens have eyes, brother. The heavens are on our side. Jin Rong and An Ren are finally going to pay with their lives." Qin Taiyan was upset to see his sister like this. Even though his father had passed away, he suppressed his emotions and persuaded her. "Sure, from now on, let's lead a good life, all right? Jin Rong passed away and the matter is in the past. I hope you can let go of the past and be happy. It's not healthy for you to be like this." Qin Shu looked at her brother with a horrifying smile. "You said that I'm unhealthy, but I think you're the unhealthy one. Have you shed a single tear after Dad passed away? You want me to be happy? Dad just passed away a few days ago. How can I smile when you tell me to be happy? Are you happy that Mo Jinran passed away?" Qin Taiyan looked at his sister. He had no idea how to deal with her. "Qin Shu, look at what you've become. I'm not crying because I'm the eldest son of the family and I'm your brother. I have to shoulder the responsibility of the family. Ever since Dad passed away, you've always been like this. In fact, you've been avoiding it. You know it. It's because of you that Dad was angered to death, so you feel guilty and blame others in exchange for that pitiful existence. I haven't talked to you during this period of time because of this. I hope you can understand and face your mistakes. We'll have to lead a good life now in the future. I don't want you to be blinded by hatred or disturbed by others, which will affect your future life. Jin Rong and An Ren had passed away. You have to lead a good life in the future." She couldn't listen to her brother's logic at all. "It's not my fault. I didn't kill Dad. You're talking nonsense. I don't have a brother like you." Qin Shu pushed Qin Taiyan, pretending to be in pain as she laid on the bed, panting heavily. Qin Taiyan was unmoved. She had been like this for all these years. She used her heart disease as a protection. Everyone spoiled her and pampered her, which was why things ended up this way. "Don't pretend anymore. All these years you've been using your heart disease as an excuse. When outsiders bully you, pretend to be ill, and in the end you bully others and others can't retaliate or do the same thing to you. That's why you became like this. I have helped you contact a school abroad. You can go to school. I'll take care of the business in Wrong City. Without my permission, you are not allowed to return to the country. There will be someone there to pick you up. I have booked a ticket and you will leave the day after tomorrow. I have contacted the hospital regarding the baby. We can do an abortion there and no one will find out that you had a baby." Qin Shu immediately got up out of bed and forcefully refused. "I don't want to study abroad. I'm not leaving. Dad's tombstone is still here and I want to be loyal to him. Who are you to chase me away? I don't want to abort this baby. I want to keep him." "Qin Shu, are you crazy? An Ren is already dead, so why are you still keeping the baby? It'll drag you down. You have to leave even if you don't want to. This place isn't suitable for you anymore." Qin Taiyan closed the door after speaking, leaving her alone in the room. Qin Shu hugged Qin Hao's photo in despair. "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't expect things to turn out this way." At the Tan family, Old Master Tan had just contacted Yaxin, but Jin Rong was dead. He was a little discouraged. "Dad, Jin Rong is gone and Sheng Li is the only one left in the Mo family. The company is probably his," Tan Shilin guessed. Old Mrs. Mo is a shrewd and capable woman, but she doesn't have any other children. It seems like the company will really fall into that man's hands this time. Old Master Tan immediately got Tan Shilin to contact Sheng Li. Yaxin might be useful if he kept her. Tan Shilin brought Yaxin home with a smile. "Now that your enemies are dead, do you have any plans?" Yaxin was still a little surprised and shocked. Anran had just spoken harshly to her and she was already dead. The heavens had opened her eyes. What plans can I have? I'm just going to be a rich wife and lead a peaceful life. She looked at Tan Qilin and smiled. Tan Qilin didn't speak. He let her marry him to coax his dad and didn't have any real feeling for her. My dad is very satisfied with you, but you still have to find a few actors to act as your parents and make my dad happy. You can have anything you want. You just have to make him stop pestering me, Tan Qilin said. Alright, I know you don't love me sincerely, and it just so happens that I don't love you either. We're just taking what we need, but I want to visit my aunt and uncle. They bullied our family a lot because of Anran. They should be very sad now, right? Yaxin said. That's your style. Tan Qilin drove while scrolling through his phone, which was flooded with the news of the Mo family. The tycoon and his wife passed away in a car accident. A business star has fallen. The large title was glaring. Tan Qilin threw his phone aside in disdain. The Mo family's market occupied more than half of the city. With Jinrong's death, the stock price would definitely plummet and the mark would immediately be divided up by others. When the time came, it wasn't certain who would be the star of the business world. I'm not going home. I'm going to go see Uncle and Auntie too. Tan Qilin turned around at the next intersection and went to the Lan family villa. Chapter 479, Taunt. In the Lan family's house, Liu was sent home after getting an IV. Yanran took good care of her and couldn't help but feel sad. Liu laid in bed, tears streaming down her face. Yanran, I've let you down. I sent you to the countryside since you were a young child and didn't let you feel any motherly love. When you grew up, you were married to this jinx, and he made you die at such a young age. It's all our fault. She took Anran's photo and gently caressed her face. I wonder how Dad is doing now. Yanran wiped his tears and placed a damp towel on his mother's head. We must arrest the person who killed Anran. Liu touched her daughter's photo and placed it to her chest. Yaxin arrived at the Lan family's house in Tan Qilin's car. She saw her uncle walking over with a distressed expression, looking exhausted. She hurriedly got out of the car with a sorrowful expression. Second uncle, I heard that sis and brother-in-law died in a car accident today. Is that true? Tingyang wasn't in a good mood to talk to her. Anran's incident had made him sad enough that he didn't want to hear anyone else's comments. Seeing that he didn't reply, Yaxin continued, Second uncle, I know that you're upset, but you have to accept our condolences. Sis is really gone this time, but you're still around. Since she passed away, the past is in the past. Why don't you go to the police station and let my grandma and mom out? Yaxin took the opportunity to talk about this, and Tingyang spoke with a dissatisfied expression. Yaxin, my daughter is dead and you don't care about her, but you want me to forgive them and let them out? What exactly is your heart made of? Tingyang was furious. Upstairs, Liu heard the noise at the door. She got out of the bed and looked to the window. When she saw Yaxin at the door, looking arrogant, she was furious. What is she doing here? Thinking that she was here to add insult to injury, Yanran was furious and ran downstairs to argue. What are you doing here? Yanran, I'm here to comfort uncle and aunt. I know that sis and brother-in-law passed away, and second uncle must be very upset, so I'm here to see if there's anything I can do to help. I wonder when my sister's memorial service will start. I want to help uncle and aunt. Although we don't have any feelings for each other since she's gone, everything is in the past. Yaxin said she cared, but she was overjoyed. You don't have to worry about my family's matters. Get lost. Yanran chased her away impatiently. Then Yanran, don't be ungrateful. Yaxin is here to mourn for you, Anran and Jinrong. Why, who are you to interrupt? Tan Qilin leaned against the window and said unceremoniously while just smoking a cigarette. Yanran looked at the direction of the voice. It was a middle-aged man with greasy hair and a suit. He leaned against a luxury car, looking especially extravagant. Who are you? Who are you to interrupt my family's matter? Don't you see how happy she is? My sister is gone, but she's still behaving like this. Do you think it's appropriate? Yanran cried as he spoke. Yanran, I know that you're upset, but I'm not really that happy. My sister treated me badly when she was alive, but I'm not that kind of person. I just want to help you deal with her funeral. It's alright if you don't need to. Let me introduce you. This is my new boyfriend, the young master of the Tan family. I'm about to become a rich lady, Yaxen said. What has that got to do with us? You can do whatever you want now that Anran has gone. In the past, I didn't bicker with you because you were young, but now you're so insensible. I can tell that you hoped something would happen to Anran. Now that your wish has been fulfilled, are you here to brag to us? Hurry up and leave after showing off and not welcomed here. Liu didn't care about her. Although her niece said that she was upset, there wasn't a trace of sadness in her face. In the past, she only thought that her niece was power-hungry and hadn't learned anything good from her parents. Now, it really seemed that she was ruthless. Second on that, I know that you're upset, but things have come to this. There's nothing we can do. You won't be happy to see Sis again, and my parents will be released in a few months. Our family is about to lead a happy life. Compared to us, second aunt and second uncle are too miserable. But there's nothing I can do about it. You have to lead a good life in the future. After I marry into a rich family, I won't be able to visit you often. But I'll send flowers to my sister's grave so that she can rest in peace in heaven. Yaxen showed a happy expression, not wanting to hide her feelings anymore. Yaxen looked at her and couldn't take it anymore. Get lost. Don't let me see you again. Tingyan was furious as well. His daughter's death made him sad, and now that Yaxen provoked him, he broke down. The sadness that he suppressed for a long time was released in an instant, and he cried loudly after his anger subsided. Second uncle and second aunt, you have to take care of your health. I'm leaving. I will visit my sister every day from today. Yaxen smiled and got into the car. She was overjoyed to see her family like this. Oh, right. We haven't seen each other in a long time, so this is a gift for you. Coincidentally, something happened to Sis, so take it as a form of condolences. Yaxen took out a bottle of precious matoi and some good ginseng from the car and placed them at the door. Tingyu was heartbroken to see these gifts. Weren't they just making things difficult for them? Take your gift and get lost. Yanran didn't care about these things. He smashed the bottle and threw the ginseng into the trash can. Yaxen didn't say anything when she saw this and got into the car. Dad, don't cry. Sis definitely wouldn't want you to see you like this. Yanran comforted his broken and crying father. Tingyan couldn't control his suppressed emotions in his heart. My daughter, your life is so bitter. Liu felt the heart-wrenching pain. I went to the police station, but the murderer hasn't been found yet. I can't let my daughter die in vain. I'm going to find that murderer. Tingyan wiped his tears, pretending to be strong, and wanted to leave. Tingyan, where are you going to find the murderer? The police can't find him, and something can't happen to someone from our family again. Liu cried. Yanran still couldn't believe that his sister had passed away. Chapter 480, Cremated. He had gone to the police station with his parents to identify the corpse. His father could tell from her forehead that he was his sister. He didn't believe it but wanted to see her again. I still don't believe that my sister passed away. I didn't open the cloth fully just now. You're escaping the truth. I'm going to see the corpse again. Yanran ran away crying. Tingyan looked at his son's determination and admitted that he was a little scared. It wasn't right to judge his daughter's death with just a little look. Son is right, I just want to see it for real. Tingyan went to hospital again. But when he arrived, he was told that the corpse had been taken away by the Mo family. The three of them headed over to the Mo family. Old Mrs. Mo was lying in bed, quite upset. Mom, I've sent someone to bring the corpses back, and they said that it's sent to the crematorium. Mom, I've sent someone to bring the corpses back, but they have been sent to the crematorium for cremation. There will be a memorial service in 2 days. I've released the news, and many people will be in attendance. Shangli seemed anxious. Old Mrs. Mo was already in poor health, but when she heard this, she quickly sat up and asked with wide eyes, Who told you to send the corpses over for cremation? Why are you in such a hurry? The Lan family hasn't even been informed yet. What right do you have to send the corpses for cremation? Hurry and stop them. Shangli frowned and replied awkwardly, The police are already investigating, so there's no need for the corpses. I was thinking that since the corpses were left alone, it would be better to cremate them early. I'm afraid they're already carrying out the cremation and can't be stopped. When the time comes, the ashes will be sent to you. Bastard, that's my grandson. Did you ask for my permission to have him cremated? Old Mrs. Mo was very agitated. To her, this might be the last time she saw her grandson. She couldn't accept that her grandson had been inexplicably cremated. She struggled to get out of bed to go to the crematorium to find her grandson. Suddenly, everything went black and she fainted. The moment Ting Young arrived, he saw old Mrs. Mo being carried into the ambulance. What's wrong with old Mrs. Mo? Li Earl walked over trembling and asked in a low voice. My mom might have fainted from agitation. I'll send her to the ambulance now. We can talk when I'm back. Shang Li hurriedly got into the ambulance. Nanny Wu was the only one left in the house. Li Earl asked, have you seen my daughter's corpse? The people at the hospital said that she was taken away by you. Why didn't you tell me? She's my daughter. Nanny Wu shook her head sadly. Mr. Mo took the initiative to do this. Old Mrs. Mo and I were upset too. Just now, when old Mrs. Mo heard that the madam and young master's corpses had been cremated, she fainted from agitation. Ting Young almost lost his balance and his pupils constricted. His daughter was sent to the crematorium for cremation before they could even take a look. They couldn't accept it. I'm going to sue you. What right do you have to cremate my daughter? You didn't even tell me. I didn't even see my daughter for the last time. Li Earl was so agitated that she fainted. This is murder. You killed my sister. Yan Ran supported his mother and shouted, Young Master Lan, we don't know anything what happened either. Didn't our young master lose his life too? Nanny Wu comforted them weakly and sighed. She treated Jinrong as her biological grandson. Who could watch her biological grandson leap before their eyes? In the hospital, Shang Li placed 2 urns of ashes on the table. Old Mrs. Mo opened her eyes and saw the urn unmarked with her grandson's name. Bastard, who asked you to cremate them? Return my grandson to me. Old Mrs. Mo was extremely agitated. Shang Li's actions were to tell old Mrs. Mo that the 2 of them were really dead and that the Mo family had no heir. He was the only heir. Mom, Jinrong is really dead. Don't worry, I've already chosen a cemetery. An Ran will be buried with Jinrong, and today will be their death anniversary every year. Shang Li was unusually anxious, which made old Mrs. Mo feel that something was wrong. Why did you cremate my grandson in such a hurry? What are your intentions? Mom, Jinrong is dead and the matter is settled. Next, we will hold a memorial service. Jinrong is a big shot in the business world, so his memorial must be held. Shang Li's frequent mention of the memorial made old Mrs. Mo even more upset. Get out! She was frustrated just by looking at her son. When Ting Young entered and saw his daughter's ashes, he was furious and anxious. My daughter's ashes? You cremated her? Have you asked for my opinion? What right did you have to make this decision? Ting Young was furious and spat out a mouthful of blood. Dad! Yan Ran hurried over to help his father. In-law, I really didn't know about this. It's all because of that unfiled son. I didn't even see my grandson for one last time, old Mrs. Mo cried. In-laws, they have passed away and you have to accept the condolences. These corpses have been deteriorated sooner or later. I have brought a plot for An Ran. Next I will put them together and they will enter the Mo family cemetery. Shang Li looked apologetic. Who said that An Ran is going to be buried in the Mo family cemetery? I will make the decision for my daughter. She will have nothing to do with the Mo family for the rest of her life. He trembled as he picked up his daughter's ashes and hugged them tightly. Even though his mouth was full of blood, he still held onto the urn tightly. Beast, get out. You're no longer my son. I don't have a son like you. Old Mrs. Mo was furious and shouted towards the door. Mom, I'm leaving. Don't be angry. Shang Li walked out of the ward and received the call. Boss Mo, the corpses still haven't been found yet. Can we get by with these 2 homeless people? The other party sounded timid. Trash, if I hadn't communicated with the police and refused the autopsy, we would have been exposed. Your mission now is to keep your mouth shut and get out of the country, Shang Li said furiously. The moment he hung up, Kinshu called. Shang Li, my brother will send me abroad to study the day after tomorrow. What should I do now? Kinshu's tone was anxious. Now that An Ran is dead, she's no longer a threat to you. You can leave the country without worry. Shang Li had long waited for a moment to get rid of this trouble. Ever since he found out that she was pregnant, she had been pestering him. It was a good thing now for him that she was going abroad. Go abroad? You want me to go abroad and abort the baby? Let me tell you, there's no way I'm going to abort him, Kinshu said. Are you crazy? You once wanted to use this child to take revenge on her. I can understand that, but you have a heart disease, and so this baby will kill you, Shangli reminded her. Chapter 481, Keep the Baby. In the past, I did want to use this baby to take revenge on Anran, but this baby helped me send that woman away. I want him to stay. Kinshu spoke firmly. You can keep him if you want. I won't acknowledge him anyway. You'd better listen to your brother and leave the country quickly, or you'll have to bear the consequences. Shangli hung up decisively, but Kinshu was still very confident. Previously, she wanted to frame Anran with the baby, but now that she was dead, it was considered a bargain. Even if Shangli didn't acknowledge the baby, she could raise him by herself. Meanwhile, Old Master Tan was observing the news closely. Tan Shilin brought Yaxin along and said, Dad, what are you doing? Old Master Tan looked up at Tan Shilin and Yaxin, and he suddenly became displeased. Jinrong was dead, and Yaxin could be said to be Anran's relative. But Anran was no longer alive, and he didn't know if Mo Shangli would still acknowledge her. After all, he was probably the only one who would inherit the Mo family. It's nothing, I'm just watching the news. Yaxin, sit down. Have you told your parents about the marriage? Old Master Tan asked with concern. Yaxin spoke. I told them, but they don't seem to want to come over when I get married, so they let me decide. Old Master Tan frowned. He didn't expect her to be so pitiful. Her sister had just passed away and her parents really didn't care about her. Since they're not coming, just forget it. Let's choose a date for the engagement. Recently, your sister's incident has been spreading like wildfire. I'm afraid that there will be rumors if you get married now, so let's choose a later time. Grandpa, you really don't despise me? Yaxin felt inferior and asked, What's there to dislike? As long as you can give birth to a fat grandson for me, we won't mention those things again. Old Master Tan only wanted a grandson, but he had no other request. Yaxin nodded in agreement and continued speaking. Grandpa, can I stay here for a while? The house is empty and there isn't a trace of life at all. What Yaxin wanted was much better than her empty house. Old Master Tan agreed. After all, not many people came here. At this moment, the young housekeeper walked over to report. Miss Lee is clamoring to come in. Old Master Tan was puzzled and asked, Miss Lee? The housekeeper stammered, It's Li Shishi, the one who caused a stir a while ago. The moment she finished speaking, Old Master Tan waved his hand with a disgusted expression. Scram! Tell her to scram! Can you just let anyone enter this place? How dare she come over after doing such an embarrassing thing? Just then, Li Shishi came in. Old Master, I'm here today to tell you something, Li Shishi spoke seriously. What are you doing here? Don't lie to me. Get out. Tan Shilin looked at her impatiently. Now that he saw Li Shishi, he was reminded of his humiliating history. Old Master, do you think your current daughter-in-law is a good person? She's just a vixen who seduces men, and she has just succeeded in getting engaged to the man she seduced. Tan Shilin turned to look at Li Shishi and said, Li Shishi, what nonsense are you saying? Get out of my house. Are you waiting for me to get the security officers to take you away? Li Shishi spoke disdainfully. I'm desperate now. I don't have a career, I don't have a man, and I don't have love. What's there to be afraid of? Lan Yaxin, do you think you're in top position now? Let me tell you, you're still far from that top position. What Old Master values is a family background. Your parents are in jail, and will be in jail for a while. Now that your sister is dead, Shangli won't even acknowledge you as his relative at all. How long do you think you can stay here? How long can you live with your lies? Soon you'll be despised by them, just like me. Old Master Tan looked at Lan Yaxin. The young lady was pretty, but was she lying? Li Shishi, can you stop spouting nonsense here? Security! Tan Shilin shouted, "It's useless even if you call security. Old master, if you don't believe me, you can go to her house and investigate. Her mother is in jail, but her aunt and uncle are still around. Anran just passed away and they're in a bad mood, but if you ask them about Yaksen, they might talk to you." Lui Shishi turned to leave after speaking. She was here to cause trouble. If she didn't have a good time, no one else could. Yaksen looked at Old Master guiltily. "Grandpa, what she said isn't true. Don't believe her, please." "I'll find out if it's true after I investigate. I advise you not to lie to me. The consequences will be serious. You'd better tell me the truth, now." Old Master Tan looked at his disappointing son and sighed. Why did his son find such lowly women? "Dad, I admit that I lied to you, but Yaksen's parents were framed. Her second uncle and aunt, Anran's parents, have always been at odds, which is why they were sent to prison. I pitied Yaksen, and she didn't mean to lie, but this experience wasn't honorable, and she might not be willing to tell others." Tan Shilin tried his best to explain. "You bastard! How could you lie to me? Let me tell you, the granddaughter-in-law of the Tan family must be from a well-matched family. Her family can't be considered well-matched, let alone innocent. How dare you bring her here? You're lying to me. Get out. You're not welcomed here." Old Master Tan said furiously, "Grandpa, please don't listen to their nonsense. I was really wronged." Yaksen tried her best to explain, but Old Master Tan didn't believe her. "I don't care if you're innocent or not. You're not allowed to interact with my son or step into the Tan residence again." "Dad, don't you just want her to give birth to a grandson for you? She can do that. If you chase her away, who will give birth to a grandson for you?" Tan Shilin persuaded him. "If you want to be involved with the Tan family, you can give birth to the baby first. The method will be the same as last time. I'll give you a considerable sum of money, which will be well enough for the rest of your life. But you can't contact the baby anymore afterwards. He can't have a mother like you." Old Master Tan left angrily. He thought that he had found a pure and innocent girl, but he didn't expect her to be such a liar. Chapter 482. She's definitely not dead. "Yaksen, my dad is right. Why don't we have a child?" Tan Shilin hugged Yaksen and said. Yaksen glared at him only. "Your dad was just fine now, but he rejected me because of a few words from that woman? Ha! Give birth, you say," she said in displeasure. "Yaksen, just give birth to a child first. My dad isn't an unreasonable person. What he said just now was out of anger. As long as you behave, I will plead with Dad and he'll acknowledge you." He promised and hugged Yaksen. Yaksen broke free and glanced at him disdainfully. "I don't think you have a say in this family." With that, she turned to leave. She didn't expect that someone would throw a wrench in the works. Tan Shilin originally wanted to use Yaksen to block the arranged marriage, but he didn't expect it to be in vain. Meanwhile, ever since Liu lost her daughter, she had been in a daze and had no intention of managing the hospital. Her health was deteriorating day by day. Tingyang looked haggard as well. "Honey, get up and drink your medicine. This is Anran's prescription. You'll get better after drinking it." Tingyang gave Liu the herbal soup that Anran made in the past. However, Liu didn't want to drink it. When she had heard that it was her daughter's formula, she immediately agreed. But her face was haggard, dark circles were under her eyes, and there was a lot of white hair on her head. "It's actually useless for me to drink medicine. When I'm gone, please bury me with Anran. I couldn't accompany her well into the first half of my life, so I don't want to have any regrets in the second half." Liu laid in bed and said weakly, "What nonsense are you saying? This family needs you. How old is Anran?" Tingyang persuaded her. "Mom, I think Sis isn't dead. Back then we only saw a little corpse and you thought she was dead. Later, when we went to take a look, the Mo family hurriedly cremated the corpses. There must be something fishy going on. If Sis and Jinrong were really missing and couldn't be found, the Mo family might have found 2 corpses to make up the numbers." Yanran thought for a long time and felt that this was the most reasonable explanation. What did you say? But why did the Mo family do that? Ting Young was confused. In my opinion, Grandma Mo might really not know, or she might not fully understand the situation, so Sheng Li might be the mastermind. Yanran analyzed calmly. If Yanran says it, then the ashes in the urn don't belong to Anran. Liu suddenly perked up and the trace of hope ignited her. Perhaps her daughter wasn't dead yet. Then whose ashes were they? Ting Young was puzzled. Call the police! Call the police! Liu shouted anxiously. Since Sheng Li has made up his mind, it's useless to call the police. There's no more evidence now. Besides, the police will give us the clues that it was an accident. Will you just believe them? Yanran guessed. He had thought that this matter wasn't simple, but now it seemed like something was truly amiss. How can that person be so capable? Where is Anran now? Liu's heart ached at the thought of her daughter. Ever since she was born, she hadn't had a good day. She was still in tender hooks, now that she was married. Mom, don't be anxious. Sis is definitely not dead. Don't worry, she'll be fine after falling at the cliff last time, so she'll be fine this time as well. Sis is the reincarnation of an immortal. She'll be fine. Yanran comforted his mother. At the same time, the Mo family's memorial service was scheduled for the next day. Although old Mrs. Mo wasn't willing, she was helpless now. Everything in the Mo family had become what Sheng Li desired. In another villa in the Mo family, Fatty and Skinner had just brought them back from the private hospital. At the last second before she fell into a coma, Anran told Fatty to send them to a secret place for treatment. Then they should be transferred to a secret place after the condition stabilizes. Hence, the safest place now was this villa. Kong Ting, how is boss? Fatty asked. Anran and Jinrong were lying on the bed. One had a serious concussion accompanied by intracranial hemorrhage, while the other had a shattered leg bone and a damaged hearing. Kong Ting looked at the couple inside. Boss's bleeding has stopped. The next step is to recuperate and see when she'll wake up. It's hard to say about Jinrong, but his leg is probably going to be crippled in the future. I don't know if his ears can hear, but fortunately his handsome face isn't injured, Kong Ting said. Ah, what a pitiful life, Fatty sighed. Fortunately, we arrived in time, or else Sheng Li would have beaten us to it and Boss would have been in danger. Fatty was frightened. Look, the Mo family is about to hold a memorial service. Boss has only been missing for 2 days, and the Mo family is already so impatient, Skinny said furiously. Do you want to stir up trouble tomorrow? Fatty said angrily too. Boss isn't awake yet. If we head over, we might be exposed. Let them be smug for a few days, Skinny thought for a moment and said. At the Mo family, old Mrs. Mo was still ill in her bed and was furious and anxious as she heard about the memorial. Suddenly, the nanny came in to report. Old Mrs. Mo, Li Fang is here again. Old Mrs. Mo couldn't care less about Li Fang's matter. What is she doing here? Let her go away. I don't have time to care about her now. Old Mrs. Mo, I'm here to pay respects to the young Master Jinrong. How could you be so rude? Li Fang came in despite being blocked by the nanny. Are you saying I don't know manners? Are you here to make a fool out of me? I have so many sons, but none are alive. Are you happy? Old Mrs. Mo was upset. Oh, Mrs. Mo, don't say that. I'm here to see you sincerely, and to remind you that Jinrong is gone. Sheng Li isn't the only child in the Mo family. There's also my son, Yuz. Don't forget, Li Fang said. Oh, Mrs. Mo was shocked. How could she have forgotten about this child? Sheng Li had placed her under house arrest, and he was in charge of everything in the Mo family. If there was another heir, the situation might be able to drag on for a while. Bring that child over to see me. He can't be the heir of the Mo family just because he wants to be. I want to see if this child is talented. Old Mrs. Mo smiled and said, Okay, don't worry, I'll bring the child over. He's just waiting outside. Li Fang smiled and turned to take out her phone, letting Mo use in. Remember this, even though I let you in, it doesn't mean that you can survive in the Mo family. Old Mrs. Mo warned. Got it. I just want the child to have a good life. After all, he is the Mo family's flesh and blood. He can't suffer with me. Li Fang said humbly. Mo Yuz entered carefully. He seemed to have lost a lot of weight and looked like a smaller version of Mo Jinrong when he was young. Old Mrs. Mo looked at the child coldly. Let me ask you, how are your grades? Li Fang poked at the child to make him reply quickly. I got first place in the final exam, and I got awards for my French, German, and soccer. Mo Yuz became more confident when he mentioned his results. I registered him in a few more classes. He's so smart, he learns fast, Li Fang said. Chapter 483, The Funeral. Not bad. Do you know mixed martial arts? Old Mrs. Mo nodded and asked again. Mo Yuz shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Li Fang hurriedly said, We'll learn it immediately. In the past, I was afraid that he would get injured, but now I'm not afraid. If you want to be the president of the Mo family, you have to protect yourself. In addition, you have to learn more about the company's management and finance. In the past, Jinrong didn't need me to teach him anything. He went to learn it himself and even got a postgraduate degree in the business administration. Yes, we'll learn it immediately. Old Mrs. Mo, have you agreed to our Yuz managing the company? He is still young, let him learn first, and then we'll talk about his future. But I need him here tomorrow. He'll be attending the Mo family's memorial service as the new president tomorrow. But before that, no one can say anything, you hear me? Old Mrs. Mo warned. Li Fang danced happily and nodded repeatedly. If the matter leaks up, your son's life might not be saved. Think about it. Li Fang was so frightened that she hurriedly hugged her son and nodded. After the nanny sent her out, Shang Li came back and glanced at them. Who are you? Nanny Wu explained. She used to be a nanny at home and has since resigned. She has a good relationship with old Mrs. Mo and is here to comfort her. Shang Li didn't say anything and let them leave. Don't let anyone into the house in the future. My mom isn't feeling well and needs to recuperate. Don't let outsiders disturb her. Yes, got it. Nanny Wu nodded and sent them out. Shang Li looked back, finding the child familiar, but couldn't remember where he saw him. Shang Li, can't someone come visit my house and chat with me? Must you imprison me in this room? Mom, your health can't take it anymore. I'm doing this for your sake. Don't go to the memorial service tomorrow. Just stay at home and recuperate. Shang Li walked in with a smile. What? You didn't even let me see my grandson when he was gone, and I can't go to the memorial now? Old Mrs. Mo cried. Shang Li shook his head and smiled. Okay, Mom, I'll take you there tomorrow. Shang Li, I advise you to know when to stop. It's not good to do too much, old Mrs. Mo persuaded him. Shang Li just smiled and spoke softly. Mom, I've done many things I shouldn't have done over the years, but I had no choice. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. That's why I'm here today. Otherwise, I would have died a long time ago. I can only survive here by being ruthless. Old Mrs. Mo was a little surprised that Shang Li had become like this. Was that why you harmed so many people, including your family? Shang Li immediately retorted, Mom, I didn't hurt them. Jinrong's accident had nothing to do with me. Don't worry. Shang Li spoke seriously. What about Yinger? Old Mrs. Mo suddenly asked. Shang Li's memories returned to more than 10 years ago. He calmed himself down. He hadn't heard this name in a long time. He was there when Mo Ying passed away, and from that day onwards, he couldn't sleep the entire night. When he closed his eyes, all he could see was Yinger's face, but he felt so much better after he went abroad. I haven't heard this name in a long time. Yinger was a very cute child. What a pity, Shang Li sighed. Does that mean you admit to it? Mrs. Mo asked. Mom, why are you blaming me for everything? Mo Ying died of a heart attack. What has that got to do with me? Shang Li said impatiently. He stood up and turned around. I'll take you there tomorrow, but I hope you know what to say and not say anything you're not supposed to. Old Mrs. Mo heaved a sigh of relief when she saw him leave. Old Mrs. Mo, didn't Sheng Li kill Missy? Nanny Wu was worried. I don't know, he didn't admit to it now. He's probably afraid that I'll leak the news, but he doesn't have a grudge against seeing her, right? Old Mrs. Mo was puzzled as well. I think Mo Sheng Li is a meticulous and vengeful person. Missy was so carefree. I'm afraid that she wouldn't have known if she had offended him. The next day, the Mo family's memorial service shocked the entire business world. The Lan family had solemn expressions as they attended the memorial service. Yaxin was also attending. Although she was dressed in black, she was smiling and looked very happy. The foreign reporters attending the memorial came over to report on Jinrong's death. Old Mrs. Mo was pushed in by Sheng Li in a wheelchair. She looked haggard, and there was a little white cloth covering her legs. At this moment, many reporters rushed over and asked Mrs. Mo, why was the Porsche cremated so early and the memorial service held so quickly? Old Mrs. Mo didn't reply, but Sheng Li did. The corpse was too horrible to look at. Mom and I discussed it and decided to cremate it. I hope my nephew and niece-in-law can rest in peace. Did you ask if we agreed? Yan Ran suddenly stood up and replied. Because he was a popular celebrity, his family matters were also well known. Mr. Yan Ran, didn't the Mo family discuss this with you? The reporters asked. No, they didn't let me or my parents see my sister for the last time before she was cremated. Even the ashes in the urns might not necessarily be my sister's. What did you say? Sheng Li had guessed that the Lan family would cause some trouble, but he didn't expect them to say that. Mo Sheng Li, is this memorial service for my sister and brother-in-law or for yourself? Yan Ran asked again. Nonsense. Back then, you wanted to identify the corpse as well. Didn't you agree? Sheng Li spoke calmly. That's because my parents didn't dare to look. When we went back, the corpse was already cremated. Who can prove that it was my sister? Yan Ran's eyes were red as he said this. Yan Ran, I know that you don't want to believe this, but since things have come to this, you have to accept my condolences. Sheng Li glanced at all the reporters, and the reporters pushed Yan Ran to the back before continuing the questions. Mr. Mo, Jinrong is the only heir of the Mo Corporation. Now that he is dead and he hasn't left any children, what will the Mo Corporation's plans? As everyone knows, you are probably the only son left of the Mo family, the reporter asked deliberately. Sheng Li had waited for this day to arrive and smiled. We don't have a conclusion yet. It will have to be decided by the board of directors. If I succeed the position, I will definitely be a good president, don't worry. The reporter behind again asked, Mr. Mo, Mr. Jinrong and Miss Yan Ran really passed away this time. How are you going to distribute the ashes and inheritance? We have thought about this problem for a long time. Yan Ran and Jinrong were a pitiful couple. I will bury them together and let them enter the Mo family cemetery. Sheng Li nodded and said, Chapter 484, The New Heir. Ha! Why would my sister enter your cemetery? She isn't dead at all. Yan Ran was agitated as he said. The more Ting Yang thought about it, the more he found it strange, so he smashed the urn in his hand. My daughter isn't dead. This attracted the attention of many reporters, and many thought that he was crazy. At this moment, Yaxin stood up and spoke sadly. Second uncle, I know that you can't accept that sis passed away, but you can't just smash her ashes. Yaxin pretended to step in accidentally and spoke in surprise. I'm really sorry, sis. Did I hurt you? Although she was apologizing, her feet were unforgiving. She stomped her feet in disgust and cried. Sis, I'm really sorry. Second uncle, how could you throw her to the ground? Yan Ran was disgusted by her pretense. Don't be so hypocritical. You aren't my sister at all, he said and pushed Yaxin aside. Mr. Lan, I know that you're upset, but it's true. Why don't you believe me? Sheng Li said helplessly. Just then, Qin Shu walked in and Sheng Li was shocked. Sheng Li, am I late? Did I miss a good show? She strode over in her high heels and maternity woman's outfit. What are you doing here? Yaxin spoke disdainfully. I'm here to pay my respects to Mo Jinrong. Back when my father passed away, he came to make a scene. It's my turn now, right? Qin Shu said. What, you want to cause a scene here too? Yaksen asked. I'm not as bad as you think, after all. Before Kinshu could finish speaking, Kin Tyann walked over and pulled her. Kinshu, shut up. Brother, why are you here? Kinshu was a little surprised. She had ran out secretly, so why was her brother chasing after her? I knew that you would sneak out. Come home with me. Kin Tyann pulled her. No, I want to see how miserable that woman's death is. Kinshu's impudent smile made the Lan family furious. Taeyoung raised his hand and slapped her. What grudge do you have against my daughter? Why are you treating her like this? Taeyoung's voice echoed in the air. What are you doing? Kin Tyann protected his sister and asked. My daughter's corpse hasn't even turned cold, and she's here to scold my daughter. Who can tolerate that? Taeyoung was furious. Lyra stood in the back in silence. She believed that her daughter was still alive. Even if she was dead, she believed that it was a conspiracy. Kinshu, come home with me, Kin Tyann said furiously. No! Whose ashes are this? Kinshu looked at the shattered urn on the ground, stepped on it, and spoke fiercely. I'm going to trample her. Taeyoung clenched his fist and was about to slap her when Kin Tyann slapped her across the face suddenly. Kinshu, wake up and go home. No, Shangli, in a year you can. Kinshu shouted. Don't you have any more shame? Kin Tyann said furiously. His anger was so terrifying that Kinshu was shocked. She had never seen her brother so angry before. I can worry about your own matters. I will never be your brother again. Kin Tyann flicked his sleeves and laughed. Kinshu was dumbfounded. She just wanted to take revenge on Anran. She was satisfied that she was dead, but she didn't seem happy. Miss Kin, if you still want to cause trouble, I can only invite you out. Old Mrs. Mo spoke bluntly. Miss Kin, enough is enough. They're already dead. Why are you still so aggressive? Zhao Yuling persuaded her. At this moment, Ki Cha hurried over. Her eyes were swollen from crying at home, and she rushed over when she heard that there was a memorial service. She didn't believe it at first, but then she saw the mourning hall. She realized that it was true. Anran, why did you leave me behind? She cried at the side. Enough? My dad died because of her. How am I supposed to stop? Kinshu had yet to recover from her father's death. Anran wouldn't kill anyone. You're not allowed to slander her. Kicha's eyes were red as she spoke. Who are you? That woman was a monster. She killed my father. Kinshu didn't give up and continued speaking. Nonsense, let me tell you. If you say it again, I'll rip you apart, Kicha threatened her. Enough, Miss Kin. Anran is my granddaughter-in-law. You're not allowed to slander my granddaughter-in-law. Please leave. Old Mrs. No gestured for security officers to drag her out. But as she's being dragged out, Kinshu kept cursing Anran. The reporters took photos and asked, Old Mrs. Mo, what exactly happened? Will the Mo Corporation really be taken over by Mr. Sheng Li? Old Mrs. Mo smiled and said, Anran is a good child. She was just jealous of her. Don't be fooled by her. Now that Anran and Jinrong are gone, someone will definitely take over the company. I have decided on a candidate. He is also a member of the Mo family. Sheng Li thought that she was referring to him and was overjoyed. That person was my other grandson, Mo Yuz. The moment old Mrs. Mo said that, Sheng Li was stunned. Mo Yuz? When did the Mo family have such a person? Isn't Mo Jinrong the only grandson of the Mo family? Who is Mo Yuz? The reporter asked. I'm afraid to say this, that my son is disappointing. No Changman found another family outside and gave birth to a son. I'm really ashamed. Old Mrs. Mo smiled and said, Sheng Li was furious and suddenly remembered the child from the last time. Was it him? Yuz, hurry over. Old Mrs. Mo waved at her grandson. Yuz, from now on you are a member of the Mo family. You must lead a good life. Taeyoung and Lyra were furious. Old Mrs. Mo was really ruthless to her grandson. He had only left a few days ago and she was already looking for an heir. Old Mrs. Mo, you really are something. You found an heir in just a few days. My daughter is nothing. Lyra cried. In-laws, my family needs to eat too. I'm sad that Jinrong is gone, but we still have to live. Old Mrs. Mo was helpless. Chapter 485, Pendant. You're too much. Ting Young trembled with anger. How could you abandon such a good child? You're inhumane. Li cried loudly. In-laws, what are you saying? Annan is my best granddaughter-in-law. No one expected this accident. My life was bumpy and I lost 2 sons, a husband and a grandson. Now there isn't even a filial person in my bedside. This is my retribution. Now that Jinrong and Anran are gone, we should lead a good life. Old Mrs. Mo persuaded earnestly. I don't have your courage. I knew my daughter was gone, but why did you still discuss inheritance? Are you even human? Ting Yang shut at the top of his lungs. We still have to live. My condolences. Li Fang sneered from the side. Of course you can say that since your son isn't the one dead, Yanran said furiously. What are you saying? Li Fang was displeased. You're the one who spoke nonsense first. That's not sis. She's not dead, Yanran retorted. Li Fang, who are you to speak here? Old Mrs. Mo was displeased. Well, Mrs. Mo, I'm Yu's mother. Don't I have the right to speak? Li Fang relied on her son and spoke arrogantly. No, I gave the responsibility to your son. If I don't admit him, you wouldn't have the right to be here. After being scolded by old Mrs. Lan, Li Fang was in a bad mood and didn't say anything. Old Mrs. Mo, Jinrong and Anran died in a car accident. The car that caused the accident is fully responsible. How are you going to solve the problem with the compensation? The reporter asked again. Sheng Li hurriedly replied, We don't want money. As long as the perpetrator goes to jail for the 2 lives that he has caused to be lost, that is enough. Mr. Mo, what do you think of this new nephew? Will you nurture him into the new Mo Jinrong? The reporter asked him directly, hitting Sheng Li's sore spot. He hadn't thought about this at all. He thought that Mo Cheng-wen was in jail and everything was all right. Now that he thought about it, this was a conspiracy. He smiled. I haven't spoken to my new nephew yet. We'll have to talk about it in the future. After all, he just started. The reporter was dissatisfied with this answer and asked, Old Mrs. Mo, Mr. Mo is standing here and he is considered to be the heir of the Mo family before Mo Yu came. However, Mo Yu suddenly appeared and chose him to be the new president. But he's still young. Are you letting Mr. Mo take over the position first? Old Mrs. Mo smiled and said, No, Yus is young, but he's very smart. I'll teach him step by step. Sheng Li has been wandering outside all these years and doesn't know anything about the company's operations. Yus is still young and can be nurtured well. Although Sheng Li appeared to be smiling, he was gritting his teeth in hatred. After the memorial service ended, the Lan family wanted to chase after the Mo family to demand an explanation, but were chased out by Sheng Li. Mr. Lan, Mrs. Lan, Lan Anran has passed away and the fate between our families is over. You can't come here again. Is there any justice in this world? Return my daughter to me. Taeyang only survived until now because he thought that his daughter was still alive. Sheng Li got the security officers to pull them away when he saw that the Lan family was trying to cause trouble. After Taeyang was chased away, he sat at the entrance in the district hall with a depressed expression. Dad, since the Mo family doesn't want to be responsible, we'll have to find out ourselves. We'll find evidence at the place where Sis died. Yanran still didn't want to believe that his sister passed away. Based on the Mo family's actions, even if his sister did die, it was intentional. Yanran is right. Let's go find some clues. Leo decided to investigate the truth behind her daughter's death, and the 3 of them arrived at the scene. The burning and exploding car had been dragged away, leaving only the burning traces and marks on the ground that were dried blood. Dad, is this Sis's blood? Yanran observed carefully. Taeyang leaned over to observe. The blood was in elongation state and hadn't been sprayed in large amounts. It must mean that they had been here for only a few minutes and weren't seriously injured. Since there was so little blood, it was impossible for the corpse to be in such a state. They might not be dead. The Mo family lied to us. Liero guessed and was overjoyed. Where exactly is my daughter? Taeyang looked around and asked. This place was very remote and far from the city. They probably didn't want to be stuck in a traffic jam. There weren't many people passing through this way, but they might have been saved. Yanran searched the scene carefully and suddenly saw something. Mom, Dad, is this Sis's? Yan Ren found a pendant in the grass. He had never seen... He had seen it on his sister before. How did it end up here? Tingyang didn't even realize that his daughter had such a pendant. He bent down and picked it up, opened it, and it was a scented Chinese medicine assaulting his nose. Yan had such a thing? Leah was doubtful. She only now realized that she seemed to care too little about her daughter. I've seen her wear it before. It belongs to her. Since it appears on the grass, judging from the blood, she must have gone to the grass and taken off the necklace. Is he trying to tell us that she's still alive? That's great, but why isn't your sister back yet? Leah was worried. She might be seriously injured, or she might be planning something like last time. She left the pendant so that we wouldn't have to worry. Yan Ren was relieved. Tingyang, is our daughter still alive? Leah covered her mouth and said excitedly. Tingyang raised his head to hold back the tears in his eyes. The heavens have eyes. At the Mo family, Sheng Li was very upset about what just happened. Mom, are you senile? Where did you find this child? He is so young. How can he be president? Will you only be satisfied if you destroy the Mo family? You would rather have a child to be the president than me. In the end, it's all because I'm not your biological child. Why are you so biased? When Mrs. Mo looked at Sheng Li sadly from the bed. Sheng Li, I won't talk about it since you weren't around for all these years. Ever since you came back, I knew how I treated you. You said you wanted to go to the company to work, and I agreed to it. I never stopped you from doing whatever you wanted, but you made me worry. You secretly bought shares, embezzled public funds, and broke the contract. I have forgiven you for all of this, but what exactly do you want now?